My name is Judy Collins, and I'm the Executive Director of the United States Staffing Association. And it is my honor today to be talking to Clark Willcox. And he is the founder, the owner of the Digital Recruiter. And he also has on here that he is business development and also a recruiting coach. So, yeah, Clark, can you tell us a little bit about you and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Digital Recruiter?
Absolutely. Well, Judy, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to have this conversation and to talk all things recruiting. It's definitely a passion of mine. So, as you mentioned, yeah, I'm the founder of the Digital Recruiter. Started that a couple of years ago after a few years working at Aerotech, which is one of the larger staffing recruiting firms in the country, as a recruiter, as an account manager. I've worked LinkedIn with LinkedIn demand generation companies. So I kind of packaged that up to found the Digital Recruiter. And so we work with smaller boutique recruiting agencies on their sales, recruiting, and marketing processes. We really kind of get under the hood and make sure that they're running more efficiently, and then really help them leverage their strengths to kind of get out in the marketplace and stand out from other agencies. We also have the Digital Recruiter Talent Group, which is an actual recruiting agency. And so through that, we're able to really help and create partnerships with people and have different roles that people can work on and that can close. And so everyone is making placements and creating revenue. So kind of have a cool little ecosystem.
Well, and that's really what it's all about. And then I know you also have your own podcast. So
Yeah.
you're very familiar with this and a pro. But today, I really want to be talking about how do you qualify better business? Everyone is up against time restraints. It's important that they use their time wisely. So, how does a recruiter really qualify doing better business?
Yeah, it's the $1 billion question in a sense, right? I mean, that's what all agencies are asking, and especially this year, which has been a tougher year, right, to get into closed business versus kind of the boom years of 2021, 2022. It is one that it's a loaded question. It's when I work with my clients all the time. What I see happen is, right, the typical process can be, whether it's in the inbox or a cold call or an email, a recruiter is trying to get, a rec, right, a role to work on. Or, hey, I saw this posting. Can I help you out? Like, sure, here's a job description. Our fee is 12%. That's where we're at with other recruiters. And then everyone is like, that recruiter is like, oh, not this again, right? It's like almost like destined to fail. But a lot of times, a recruiter will take that business, right? Some business is better than no business. I think it's a complete mistake in recruiting, especially contingent recruiting, right? It's a recipe to work for free, which you want to avoid, right? Wasting that time. Even in a retained search where you maybe get a quarter or a third of the fee up front, if you're chasing your tail on a job order that's never going to close, right? Who does that really benefit, and how much time and money have we wasted on that role? So it's typically where I see a lot of the issues at Aerotech. They really drilled this into us in terms of qualifying clients, qualifying orders. Right? We have these tags called red zones that we put on the board. And these were really like, this is what we're committing. Like, the client is committed to our process. There's three things. There's urgency, right? We've established the threats. And then we really qualified the actual role itself. And we think this is a role that the right candidate is going to be excited to take. Right. I think those three parts are absolutely critical. Right. So really starting with a sense of urgency. And, as agency recruiters, we're always urgent, right? Like, you give us well, we're working every day. We're sourcing, we're screening, we'll talk to people every day, right? Give us something to work on, we'll attack it. And but is the client matching that, right? And I'm sure you've seen, over the years, like, you've had to really see clients matching that urgency. And does the hiring manager match that urgency? If they don't, then that's totally fine. But we don't need to spend more time, right? Like, okay, come back to us when it's more urgent, right? Versus kind of chasing and kind of doing all this work without establishing, do they need someone yesterday, today, in 2 weeks, or is it 6 months or 2 years? Right? And I've seen people waste a year and a half on roles without establishing the urgency when they thought they had a real rec. And then if you put your own recruiters on that, then you're wasting their time. So the first thing is urgency. The Second is threats, right? Who else is working on this, right? Is it internal, other agencies, right? How long has it been open? Why haven't they filled it? Right? We really want to get an understanding of where are we coming at in this process, right? Are they just starting to think about this role? If it's been worked on for 6 months and maybe it's a geographical area, what if all the good candidates have already been contacted about this role, right? You don't want to ruin your own reputation, which is huge, right? By being the fourth or fifth agency to reach out to all the best candidates. It's another great way to waste time, right? And to work for free, but also not get anything out of your time, right? You're just making your company look worse. And again, you're going to be kind of chasing your tail when all you had to do was kind of ask some of these questions, right, ahead of time to kind of know where do you stand kind of in the current, if you will, of this job order.
Right.
And then the third piece I would say is the details, for sure, the details of the role, right? If you establish the urgency is there and you have a clear idea of the threats and there's still, it makes sense to continue, right? Is first thing is going to be compensation, right? Are they looking at this realistically? Is it below market? Is it at market? Is it above market, right? You want to start like, are they on Earth with this, the reality of filling this role? Or are they kind of maybe out in space a little bit? And I think we've all run into that, right? As owners, recruiters, salespeople in recruiting, right? There's all sorts of types of prospects, right? And being able to really bucket those, this is really helpful. I think compensation is the biggest one. It's talked about for a reason. I know schedule and remote and in-person has really come into play too. But really trying to get an understanding as to how they came to that compensation number, why the schedule matters so much, and really just kind of digging in and not necessarily taking the first answer face value, because you're coming in trying to catch up to speed and just understand them. And I think really taking that approach versus just assuming they have it all figured out. I mean, you combine all that, and that's huge.
Excuse me. And I think also it's chasing that purple squirrel. Is everybody being realistic?
Right.
And then coming in, I used to tell people all the time, it is better to do no business than bad business. And a lot of times I was basing that really on payment, on is your client, willing to pay? Are they going to pay on time? Are they financially responsible? So, I mean, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and it needs to, go a little bit deeper when you get those job openings on that. And it's really qualifying your time. Your time is very precious. It's important. So make sure that everybody, respects your time as you are respecting your client's time and your applicant's time.
Absolutely. And I think in doing that and asking the right questions, right, you're establishing yourself as a leader in the hiring process, which is what they need. That's why they're engaging in the conversation in the first place, is they need help. Right. And a lot of agencies and recruiters that I've worked, I see them kind of on their back foot, being like, they're like, oh, I'm an order taker. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you're the leader in the process, right? And you kind of are there to show them how they need to get their ducks in a row to make successful hires and to have candidates be excited about the role and to get that response rate and to have this actually flow. And a lot of times these questions are things that a lot of hiring managers have never thought of. Right. And they've never really been pushed on. So you're giving them a completely different experience by asking these types of questions. And as you said, like, do you have have you set aside the budget for the role? Like, what's the consequences of not filling it? Right. Where does that lose? Like, what's the business impact? Are we losing revenue? Are you guys leaving money on the table by not having this person? And really making them think this is like a business decision, not just hiring one person kind of in a vacuum. Right. There's so many domino effects that this role that a roles typically have on the organization or the department, and you really want to figure that out first before you start chasing at a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 placement fee, which is an easy trap to fall into. But you can kind of get ahead of yourself, and when it could have been a lot simpler to just do a lot of the work on the front end, and you make the back end a lot easier in terms of like submittal, interview, feedback, offer process, right, to kind of take care of that work on the front end. So that's from the years of doing this and, working with, talking to owners like yourself, it's always the theme that comes up over and over again, right? Just they're not afraid to be really inquisitive on the beginning and to walk away and say no to business, as you said, right? Saying no to bad business versus saying yes. And that frees up all this other time right? Especially the mental energy to kind of pursue, good business, and knowing that you do have your boundaries. And that really resonates with hiring managers and prospects and good clients. Just kind of that, a recruiter that, knows what they're willing to work on and want that they're not. So.
Well, and I think you also then position yourself as an expert. You're not
Yes.
coming in, you're not a rookie, you know how to do this, and you have a process and it needs to be followed. And therefore, then the consequences and the results are going to be so much better.
Absolutely.
So on that, can you also tell us then if anyone has any questions? And then I know that you have a newsletter. And
Yeah.
can you tell us how we can maybe subscribe to your newsletter, or if anybody has like any questions, how they can get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Well, you can always find me on LinkedIn. That's Clark Willcox with two L's in Willcox. I know people usually confuse that. We have our website is digitalrecruiter.io. And you can subscribe to the newsletter there. There's also links to the podcast there. They're also all on my LinkedIn page. If you have any questions, you can reach us through the website or message me directly through LinkedIn. I'm obviously on there most days, pretty much every day. So I'll be able to get back to you then there. And so, yeah.
Well, and I'm so glad because I even made that mistake. I only put one L in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and that's right. It's WILLCOX.
Yes. Yeah. So if you search for the one L Clark Willcox, you'll come up fruitless. But yeah, two L's and you'll find me. And I'd love to hear from you.
Okay. All right. Well, Clark, I really do appreciate it. And what you're doing is really very important, is how a recruiter can qualify better business. So thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you, Judy.